I can't tell you the number of times I've had somebody say, Brett, you can't do that. Well, the hell I can't.
Today's a day the gang has been looking forward to, the Old West scenes. The location is an hour away in Sabinal, Texas. So we took advantage of the long drive to talk to Brett Mauser and pick his brain about all things film.
And if you see me between the hours of 9 to 5, I'm a dead man walking, barely alive.
We are headed towards Sabinal, which is about an hour outside of San Antonio on Highway 90. We have used this location once before. Yeah. We've been in Sabinal since Lady Lawman, but we recently, for Oldest Posse, found another little town that's basically somebody's backyard that has an Old West town in it. So we're going to go out there and shoot our Old West scenes for the Serial Rabbit movie.
Well, you take care, Rabbit. Godspeed.
Old West towns can be pretty relatively expensive. That was a big part of our budget for Oldest Posse. In Lady Lawman, we had one town that we used, and that was in Manor, the J. Lorraine ghost town, which cost, I think, upwards about $300-400. But places like Mescal out in Arizona or the Buggy Barn up in Blanco, Texas, they can be pretty pricey because you always have to have insurance as well. So that's a little bit of a cost. But out here is just a friend, basically, who has an Old West town. And this goes back to resource filmmaking. We had always, in Serial Rabbit 5, we ended with the rabbit going back in the Old West. So it was always a dream of mine to actually do some stuff with a Serial Rabbit in the Old West. But, it was cost prohibitive. And this time when we shot this movie, we knew that we would have access to Corey Brooks's Old West town, so we decided to take advantage of that for this and actually get to see the rabbit in the Old West for a little while. So we get to shoot a showdown today, an Old West showdown, and a poker game in the Old West, and some stuff with Lilith, and some really funny stuff.
That was the ultimate power in the universe. You just crapped it out in the woods somewhere? Are you an idiot, Leo?
If you have a camera and two friends, you can make a movie. Period. End of story. No excuses. No other excuses. Even if you only have your phone, you can download an app that allows you to do a little bit of editing. Right. Two friends, a phone, and have them talk. And you go back and forth. You get a close-up of one friend, close-up another, and then a wide shot. And then you cut it together on your phone. And the software the apps that you can get for your phone will even allow you to put titles into it. You can make a movie.
Charlie's gay for one.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
He's not.
Well, how do you know?
Because I slept with him.
Oh, that's hardly evidence to the contrary.
From a legal standpoint, insurance. You want to get insurance. My earlier films, even going back to just a few years ago, we just couldn't afford insurance. It was a matter of, hey, we either do this or we don't. If we got to wait around and get the insurance, which can be $200 a day, $150 a day, $300 a day, and then if you're doing a Western with horses and stuff like that, it's going to be even higher, because if you get your standard general liability policy, there's I think $1 or $2 million in property damage, et cetera, that usually won't cover horses. So you have to watch out for that, and other things like blank pistols or firearms on set or explosives or anything like that, that's going to cost extra.
And when I say firearms, I don't mean having a real gun on set. When you have something like blank firing pistols, something that is basically a firecracker in a barrel. In my opinion, never have real firearms on set. There's absolutely no reason you need to do that, especially when you have such great looking guns like airsoft nowadays. Whenever possible, we use plastic airsofts. I do enjoy using the blank firing pistols because you get the smoke, the muzzle flash, and the kickback from the gun. But when you're downtown, you're in a city location, it makes it so difficult to do that. And then actors can be foolish sometimes, and you want to be careful with that, and you only want to put the blank firing pistols in an actor's hand who you trust. I think the last time we used blanks were in Lady Lawman, and I was the one that was firing the blanks. Even though a blank pistol doesn't actually fire bullets, it is going to increase your insurance, because especially if you have a front firing blank pistol, there's still stuff flying out of that barrel. There have been videos where you can put those blank firing pistols up against some styrofoam or something like that and pull the trigger, and you can see that gas is still going to do damage. So you never want to put even though it's a blank pistol, never shoot yourself in the head or in the hand or something, because there's gunpowder and there's little molecules that are going to fire, and it's still a big power, a big burst of compressed air, especially in a revolver. In your film, Where Cow, where Paige is holding the gun, and I yell and scream every time I see it, her hand is over that barrel. And if that were a blank firing gun and she pulled that trigger, she'd lose her fingers. But never, never, never have a real firearm on set. You hear me, Alec?
So that, from a legal standpoint, is something that you really need to get. When I'm shooting at my house, since it's my property, I don't have to get it and whatnot. But it is something that is always out there, because if something happens on your set and you damage the property and you don't have insurance, you're liable for that. You're going to have to pay for that.
We call this God's country.
If you want to get great locations, you're going to have to get insurance, because the locations are going to require your general liability policy, which covers you up to something like $2 million. And this is if your equipment or your gear, your actors, or something happens and they do some damage to the property. This insurance will cover you, and you don't have to pay out of your pocket for that damage. The insurance policy will take care of that. The place we go is a place called Event Helper online, and you basically say what state you're in, what type of project it is, in terms of, is it a photo shoot, is it a wedding, is it a concert, is it this? And then it'll give you the day rate. Now, if you're using horses or firearms or something like that, sometimes they won't cover it at all, or sometimes that you need to get a separate policy to be able to afford that. So it's the best way to be able to protect yourself. Now, that does not include workers' comp, things like that, so that if a building falls on an actor, then the general liability isn't going to cover that. If you get distribution, you're probably going to be required to get something called E&O insurance, which is errors and omissions insurance. And this is one of those legal things that if I have a character named Betty Friebenhauser, who's an accountant in Oklahoma, and we release the movie, and then we find out that there's a woman named Betty Friebenhauser who's an accountant in Oklahoma, she can sue you and say, hey, this was, you're making a movie based on me, or whatever like that. So E&O insurance covers things like that.
When I finish a shoot, I will come home and I will dump the footage. And if it's early enough, I'll probably even start doing a little bit of editing. Then usually the next day, I start editing, really cutting it down, make my rough cut on each of the scenes we've shot, and just get a rough cut. Once that's done, then I move into the visual effects, sometimes the music, because that'll help kind of get the pacing. And then one of the last things I do is, and then I'll put the sound effects in. Love doing the sound effects. It's fun. Really makes the pieces come together, because there are so many times, especially in fight scenes or action scenes, I'll be editing and I'm going, man, what have I got to work with? This is horrible. Oh, this just doesn't work. And then as soon as you drop the music and the sound effects in, it becomes a work of art. I just can't emphasize enough how much that makes it work. So after after I get that in, the music, the sound effects, and then the audio, dialogue and everything, once that's in, then I do all my leveling, making sure that everything sounds right, and then we're good to go, and then I'm ready for the next shoot. So usually, if I have a shoot on a Saturday and Sunday, by the following Saturday and Sunday, I've edited everything that we shot the previous weekend. I use Premiere. I have Adobe Creative Cloud. It integrates so well with Photoshop and Illustrator and After Effects that it's just a great suite. Especially if you're a student, you can get the student price on it. So it's even it's less expensive. But I pay the monthly fee, and I'm constantly using it. I don't think there's a month that goes by that I'm not using the damn thing. Otherwise, if you don't want to pay that, you can always go with DaVinci. DaVinci's free. They have a free version of it, and then you can also pay the studio version, which is I think $300, and you own that. You'll have that for perpetuity, and that's a good system. But I still like the timeline and the workflow of Premiere better.
TV news, where failed filmmakers go to die.
I would say there are two reasons that filmmakers don't get their films made. First one being the one that's most easily correctable, and that is that they are just over-ambitious for their first film. They want to make this big epic with 200 people and Western and horses and towns, and you got all this stuff you want to do. And then you write the script, you love it, you see it in your head, you think it's great, and then you have to actually start finding all this stuff. And that will turn people off, because after the first dozen calls that you're getting no's on, or you're finding how much an Old West town is going to be, or how much the insurance is going to be, you start getting deterred, and you start thinking, oh man, this isn't worth it. Oh man, where am I going to find the money? Oh man, this is going to cost so much. And those are the people they have ambition, and they actually are have enough drive to actually be making those phone calls and be putting it together, but it's too ambitious, and they're biting off more than they can chew, and they start realizing it's too much. And that started with the script. That started all the way at the very beginning of the concept, because you weren't thinking about what you had to work with, and it was your first film or your second film or your one of your earlier films, and you're trying to make Gone with the Wind when you just need to be making Clerks. The other one, people aren't going to want to hear, but they're just lazy. There's a big argument about ideas. When you get into filmmaking, you're going to realize that everybody has a script. Everybody has a movie. And I'm not just talking about filmmakers. I'm talking about the extras that come on your set, the owner of the convenience store that you're shooting in. They have a movie idea. Everybody has a movie idea. Everybody thinks that they have the perfect movie. So ideas are not hard to come by. Every day on set, you have another idea. Actors contribute with ideas. Producers have ideas. You can be walking along the street and you just happen to have an idea pop into your head. So ideas are cheap. They're out there all over the place. They are a dime a dozen. It's the ability to turn that idea into a finished product that is rare. The characteristic that allows you to turn an idea into a movie is that drive, is that ability to just need to get it done. One of the things that I did early on was, once I decided I was going to make a movie and I made my schedule and sent it out, it was done. I had to finish this movie because I was not going to be that guy that doesn't finish his movies. So now I've had a lot of movie ideas. I've had a lot of pre-production moments where I've done some casting, and I said, okay, this is the next movie. Who's interested in this role? This is the movie I want to do, and then it kind of fizzles out, or we move into something else, or we do a different project. That's different. But when I actually say, and I get the ball rolling, and I have this scheduled, then I'm committed. So it becomes a moment of personal pride. And this is where I hear when people say, well, it doesn't matter what other people, it doesn't matter what other people think. Yes, it does. It definitely matters what other people think, because if you don't finish your movies, nobody's going to want to work with you.
Right.
So it is important what people think. So I will make sure that I finish the movies. It's not always very good. Sometimes it's, sometimes the movie is pretty bad, but I finished it. And that means the world to everybody that worked on the movie with you. Even if it's a piece of crap, they have a movie that they can show their talents, and they can show and use in their demo reel, and they get to see the fruits of their labor. So that is very important. You do need to care what other people think. They've come up with the idea and they think they've done it, and they've sat down and they've written the screenplay. Well, congratulations, half of the population has already done that. Now, if you want to make the movie, that's the tough part, because now you've got to turn that idea into reality. So it ain't easy making the phone calls, getting the casting, shooting, directing, editing. All of that is a pain in the butt. And you have to want it, and you have to love it. Because if you don't, you're just going to wind up, giving up on film. Or you're just going to have a million screenplays that never get finished. You got to be cold sometimes, and you got to be mean, and you got to say, look, you're being lazy. Look, you got to tell them the cold hard truth.
And to me, it's a public service to say, look, you're being stupid. Because one of the most impactful moments in my life was when I was 6 or 7, and I was visiting my grandparents, and I was throwing a hissy fit. I was a spoiled little brat. And I was throwing a hissy fit and crying because I didn't get my way. And my grandfather came up and was just blown away by how I was acting, and just looked at me and said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I shut up like that. I stopped crying immediately.
That statement my grandfather made changed my life and the way I behave and the way I present myself.
There's only been like 2 or 3 times in my life where I've pulled the "what the hell is wrong with you" card. And it's been those important moments that I've seen. Actually, when I did that, it's changed people.
If all the excuses they've been making as the reason that they're not making their movie, and then all of a sudden you come in and you throw all those reasons out the window, then they have to come to grips with the fact that, well, they're lazy and they're just making excuses as to why not make their movie. So it's going to blow up their whole mind and their whole worldview. And now they have to come to grips with the fact that, oh, I could have made my movie all those years ago, but I was too lazy and I was making excuses as to why I didn't.
Nice. So this is it.